This is my recap of Marriage Boot Camp, Season 2, Episode 3. She shot her husband. So I need to tell you kind of funny story. Last week's recap, I talked about how all the couples have talent agents. And I actually encountered one of their talent agents this week. So I was out doing chores in the morning on the ranch like we always do, and opened up the gate for my husband's tractor to go through, and it was warm out. So I was just sitting on my phone, looking through my stuff. And I got an email, so I opened it up, and it's from a talent agent. And I thought, maybe I've been discovered. Nah, nothing to do with that. It was from Sean and Sophia's talent agent. And it basically said, dear blogger, or I think it actually said my name. Dear blogger, as you may have heard on the gossip rag, Sean has been accused of doing gay porn, and we are saddened that people are misrepresenting the facts. He, in fact, just did straight porn. I was like, oh, wait, what? And I was like, it's this long press release, and they're explaining how he only, it was a hard time in his life, and he only did 2, recordings, and it was an alone scene and one with a woman, but it was mostly focused on him, and it was for a website that was like straight guys for gay eyes or something. So the audience was mostly gay men, I guess is the idea, but it wasn't gay porn. And what was like baffling to me is I get in the tractor and I'm like, honey, you won't believe what I got. There's this long email, and I was like, I didn't even know I hadn't actually heard this. I guess it was on TMZ because I went home and Googled it. And I wrote back the talent agent, and I was his agent, and I was like, hey, so just to be clear, you just want me to get the word out that he didn't do gay porn, he only did straight porn? And the guy wrote back, absolutely. If you want to interview him, just let me know. And I was like, thanks. Right? It's a weird way to start my day, and I tried to tell my friends the story, and I couldn't even explain all the weirdness about that. So there you go. Direct from me to you, there's the truth of the matter according to his agent. It doesn't really affect what I think of him or the show or anything like that. And I don't really think it should. So, this episode, we're still working on therapy. We see a whole bunch of different therapy, and sometimes they don't really give as much information, or we don't see as much of the information they give particular couples. So as we go through this, it's even though there's 10 of them, 5 couples, sometimes they'll only address really these 3, and then they'll kind of cut through the rest. So I don't have in-depth information for every single couple. Anyway, we open up with them all talking, the counselors, and they're discussing kind of some of the people they want to address, which is Blanca and Julian, and Jeff and Tasha, and that sort of thing. So the one thing we do see, which kind of sets us up for something that goes through the whole episode, is Blanca and Julian discussing breakfast, and we're establishing that he's asking her to make breakfast, and she's like, no, that's your job, and back and forth. So the day is going to start, the therapy's going to start, everybody gets a package outside their door, they open it up, it's got all this protective gear and these jumpsuits they can put on. So everybody goes and puts their jumpsuits on and goes outside, and there's the counselors, and this sort of a post-apocalyptic scene, and they're explaining that a virus has ravaged the world, and there's only enough antidote for 3 people, so one by one they're going to take the people up. If you feel that they should not be one of the 3 survivors, then you'd shoot them. And the more reasons you think they shouldn't, the more you should shoot them. Now, naturally, I just need to point out that it's going to progress. We're going to see exponential growth through this exercise, because obviously, in the beginning, people are like, I don't know, and someone gets X amount of paintball shots. Well, then the next person, if you dislike them more than you did the last person, you're going to shoot more. So it's just going to continue to kind of grow. So it's not real surprising that in the beginning we're going to see fewer shots than we will at the end, just period. My prediction was going to be that Sean and the gals would get the most, because they've been the ones, I think, to initiate many of the conflict. And then after that, you might see Jeff, and that it would kind of be up in the air. There's some people who, if someone said, describe for me why, say, Thomas is, and Mei Lee, are there, I can't even really give you a good reason, and that's partially just because of what's been shown on TV and just some of their interactions that are a bit more reserved. Anyway, we go through. After they shoot the participant, they come back, they go down the line, they talk to everyone. Did you shoot them? Did you not? And if they shot, well, why? Why is that? And the idea is that they want each of the participants to hear how others see them. So just to kind of summarize real quick in the highlights, we see Sean gets 8 shots for anger. Thomas gets 4. We don't even really hear why, but we do hear they call out Julian because I guess he like raised his gun like he was going to shoot, but he didn't actually shoot, and they kind of called him out on like maybe that's something he does a lot, which is he doesn't want to take responsibility. So he kind of, maybe he lets Blanca take some of the responsibility for being the bad guy. Now that's kind of what I got out of that. Then we see Tasha, she got 18. They say things like she's too weak, she's too emotional, she needs to pull herself together. And what was funny about that was that she's like sitting there and she's like, you think I'm too emotional? Well, I'm going to show you too emotional. I'm going to kill you all. She's kind of like whispering it. But it's just, I mean, come on, that's kind of funny. Jeff gets 22. We hear, you know, he has no emotions. He's not real communicative, things like that. Maylee gets either 19 or 20. The big thing going into with Maylee was that she didn't want to do it. She doesn't like risks. She doesn't want to risk getting hurt. And she doesn't want to do it. And Gloria really gets up in her face about, you know, you're complaining about everything. Just go home. Just go home. And that was kind of some of the criticisms, is that she's not a real doer. Gloria gets 87. And pretty much, I mean, she gets, you know, she talks too much. She's rude, controlling, bully, mean, bossy, that kind of thing. You know, and then Mark hits 31. And then he said he really felt it was because of Gloria. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not. Sophia gets 8. Julian gets 15. The big thing from that was that Blanca shot him, and that really hurt him. They kind of feel like maybe he's a pushover or wimp. And then Blanca gets 18. And Julian did not shoot her. But people kind of said that she maybe doesn't do a lot. She's kind of useless, or a trophy survivor, a little bit selfish. And then the instructors kind of go down the line and kind of summarize what everybody's, you know, problem was. So they leave the exercise, and Blanca is saying, she's saying some stuff. And the thing I heard her say, which was a good point, because we don't really know what happened. She points out that, you know, he keeps saying, I don't make breakfast, but I clean the house, I do other things. It's been like this he's known that I don't cook for 10 years, and now he's making a big deal out of it. And she does have a point, which is, you know, every relationship, you go into it and you kind of have these agreements, like they may have an agreement that says that she doesn't cook, but she will do other things. I'm not at their house, so I can't tell you if the workload between them is fair. I mean, I'm not even going to pretend to say one way or the other. But there are things in our household that I could say, well, that's not fair because I always do this. But if we do the big picture, maybe it is fair because maybe I do this and he does this and that kind of thing. So I will point out that the breakfast thing, I don't really know how to stand on it. When I first heard it, I was like, oh, it's awful. She never cooks. But then she made her point, I was like, oh, well, I don't really know. And even the counselors address it, that it's not really the breakfast. It's not really that she doesn't cook breakfast. It's like he wants her to do something nice for her. But anyway, the context of this is she's saying all this, and one of them, I think it was Gloria. I'm sorry, I can't remember her. My note says Tasha, but I think it was Gloria. Whoever it was, like, they were in separate rooms, and she, like, stops, and she's, like, listening to Blanca, and she, like, was more than happy to, like, pull Julian over so he can hear it, so he can go confront her. And they're just bumping heads and everything about this whole topic, this whole breakfast thing. Then we see the Blanca and Julian get their one-on-one. I do have to say this about Blanca. I wish I had self-confidence like her, because just all these criticisms doesn't bother her in the least bit. Like, she's not insecure about them. Like, she's probably one of the more self-confident people I've ever seen, and I think we could all use a little dose of that. But they do get on her about accepting apology. And at some point in one of these two scenes, she says, you know, I have a problem admitting I have a problem. And Julian kind of played that off like that wasn't a big deal. I actually thought that was progress. I think that admitting that you have a problem, is a good place to go, because you can start with that and you can say, well, why? And what they came up with is that she's kind of a perfectionist. She holds herself to this incredibly high standard. And so she feels like if she admits that she does something wrong or has a weakness, that no one else will like her. And I was like, oh, you know, that really kind of fits. And we were like halfway through the episode at that point. So I'm going to kind of race through the second half of the episode, because it was a little bit more personal or intimate, to where I don't necessarily feel comfortable dissecting it. But they go through and they discuss things from their childhood that still really affect them. Things like Gloria had no father. Sean felt that he was an ugly, nerdy, bully kid. Things like that. Blanca didn't really feel like anything. She wasn't real clear about whether she felt that nothing in her childhood, like nothing bad happened, or whether she just felt, but she more or less said was that, yeah, maybe some bad stuff happened, but that doesn't affect me as an adult. Now, Jeff had just a heart-wrenching story about, I guess he was a cop at some point, and a case of abuse that he had seen, and I don't even want to go into the details of it, because it was pretty intense, and he had a pretty intense moment with Tasha, and I'm hoping, I don't know, I mean, he seems like a nice guy, and he obviously really loves her, and he seems to be putting up with her saying some pretty mean things, and I would like to see them together. But then they kind of do the end about, you know, Tasha and Jeff kind of had this breakthrough. Sean and Sophia, I mean, they've done great this whole day. Like, I thought they did really well, but it's clear that he would really like to have a drink, and she really, I think, wants him to see as this is like you can't do this anymore. And I think maybe she's a little scared that he'll just back off of that. And there you go. There's our episode. I will talk to you guys later.